Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being patient during our late start today. I actually wanted to start today by asking the audience a question. Can someone tell me what you're hoping to hear today? Why'd you come? What do you want to hear about? New ideas. Why are educators experiencing burnout? Awesome. Anyone else? If you don't say it, I might not talk about it. Okay. Well, we're going to get started today, and I'm going to tell you through the storytelling of how Creatively Focused came to be the company we are today, what the deal is with teachers, right? What's really happening. So Creatively Focused focuses specifically on the special educator, and we need to start with what the problem is. So what is the problem? School districts have to have special educators. They are licensed in a way to be able to specifically provide support to nearly 7 million students across the United States who work with special education students. The thing is it's required by law. Right? These students are protected under federal guidelines, under state guidelines. They deserve these services, but we don't have enough special educators to support them. And year by year and year after year, we're losing more and more of them. This year, 1 million special education students won't have the licensed teacher that they need. And it's not just a Minnesota problem. 49 states have this problem. And in fact, 21 of those 49 states have had the problem for 20 years. Take that in for a second. For 20 years, we've been talking and talking and talking and talking about this teacher retention problem. And this is what we're seeing. Pre-pandemic, 50% of special educators within 5 years of starting left the field completely. That doesn't mean that they just went to a new district. They leave the field. They say, I can't do this job anymore. I need to leave. Within 10 years, it's 75%. So you can see what a problem this is. And like I mentioned, we talk and we talk and we talk and we attempt to solve, but it still hasn't been solved. And here's why. The research tells us exactly why they leave the field, and we're going to talk about some of those things today. But when we look at what action is attached to that research, so much of it depends on administrators taking action to make their special educators feel more valued, to help their special educators learn the skills they need to learn. Well, guess what? Here's a little secret. I got my principal licensure alongside my special education licensure. When I got my principal licensure, I had 1 3-hour course on special education. I was prepared for 3 hours to be the person who those special educators should be able to go to and get support from. So today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey and our company's journey. Because what I've recognized is, like anything else, you can look in the past and understand why you are where you are now. So it all started in 2008. I was working as a research assistant at the University of Chicago. I actually started out in research and academia. I did not go into teaching like most teachers do, where they say, I love to work with students, that's the first job I'm going to do. Fresh 22-year-old in a classroom? No. Instead, I found myself being assigned to a study that worked with teachers to really figure out how they could add more supplemental math curriculum that helped enhance the spatial intelligence within your brain. Sounds fancy, right? If you ever want to read a whole article on it, I've got one for you. Here was the coolest part, though. I learned, now many years later, that the reason that happened to me was because I needed to find out what really excited me. And what really excited me was seeing teachers who had never met each other sitting around a table after a 12-hour workday and being thrilled to be with each other. They had smiles from ear to ear. They were excited about their content. They were excited to work with each other to figure out what they could do differently in the classroom next day. And I sat in the corner taking my observations for the research purposes, and I thought, how on earth do they have this energy? How on earth am I putting these couple of teachers together who have never met, but it seems like they've known each other for years? Here's the thing, their days looked the same. At the end of the day, they could look to the person across the table and they didn't have to explain anything about the kid who ran out of their room at 10:30, about how they didn't receive the 15-minute prep that they were supposed to have, about how they still have 3 hours left of paperwork to do at the end of the day. They didn't have to explain any of that. They connected with those people because they could just get into the work. So I just learned in this moment, I thought to myself, teachers need more. They need more of this. What's happening in schools right now? And I also knew, if I'm really committed to making this happen more, what would it look like if I did some of this myself? So from 2011 to 2017, I did it. My feet were on the ground in a school building as a special education teacher. I then was a special education coordinator, and then I became a director of special education, because let's face it, my research brain never stopped. I lived in a world of what ifs, and I needed to work with systems. I needed to work with big picture thinking and visionary thinking. But I didn't just learn what it was like to be a special ed teacher. I was put into circumstances that made me feel every single part of it, to the point where when I tell you this story now, my entire body can feel what I felt like in these moments. 2 weeks before school started, I found out that I had a blind and visually impaired student starting. I was licensed as a specific learning disability teacher, emotional behavioral disability teacher, and a cognitively impaired teacher. I was not licensed to teach students who were blind. 2 weeks before school started, I found out that this student was going to walk through our doors and that I would be that student's case manager. I went from thinking, I'm ready for the year. I know my caseload, I'm ready to plan for them, I feel like an expert at what I'm doing, and then bam. 3 minutes later, I was faced with literally an entire box of at least 1,000 pages of paperwork that spelled out the entire case of this one student. And it wasn't just that she was blind, she had cognitive impairments, she had other things that people needed to be aware of, social work needs, physical needs. And so I got to work. I went to my team and I said, who do we need? How can we find them? And how are we going to make sure that when this student walks through the doors in 2 weeks, that she feels ready to go, that she feels supported and she feels prepared? Now, I will admit, this was probably one of the more dramatic moments, where it was like, pull together a blind and visually impaired program for this student within 2 weeks. But what I quickly learned was this was it every day. Something that big to solve, something that challenging to face, something that required more than just me and the support of so many team members I was going to be faced with every single day. And so after becoming a special ed director, feeling the burnout myself, I think I just said to somebody, 2.5 years in, I said, how do people do this? I was working 60 to 70 hours a week. I didn't even have kids yet, and I thought, this is not sustainable. How does this work? I went through it and I built a team. I saw those same people go through the same burnout, right? They came in extremely passionate. It started to fizzle a little bit in year 2. That's where they started to say things to me like, am I the right person to do this job? I don't know if I am. And by year 3, they wanted to leave, and most did. And so as I went through, I hit a tipping point in 2016, right before I established Creatively Focused. I sat in my office, I looked at my whiteboard, and I said, we have to do better. We need better for students, we need better for their families, we need better for teachers, for administrators. This isn't pretty and we need to do something about it. And so I went out and I said, there's gotta be something out there, I don't know what it is quite yet. I was a special education licensed teacher, and I thought, okay, I can take my skill set, I can go and work with a few districts to be able to support them in the area of special education programming. I want to know who's ready to think outside of the box. I want to know the districts who are ready to say, yes, we have a problem and we need to fix it. And so that's what I looked for. Now here's what I didn't expect. People sometimes ask me, what's your exit strategy? I didn't have an entrance strategy. I came in thinking it'll be just me, myself, and I, and guess what? 2 years later, I had a team of 12 people. 2 years after that, I had a team of 30 people. The need was huge. Districts were coming to us saying, we need help. We're ready to think about this differently. We're ready to think about how we value our teachers, how we provide them with expertise, how we keep them connected. And so I started to build a team. We built a team as a professional services and consulting company. You can think about it as simply as a district needed support in one area. We came in, we provided recommendations, but we didn't do just that because we didn't leave. We didn't just give them a report and say, now you can go and do better. We gave them a report, and then we said, we're here alongside you to help you do this. It got to the point that just about every conversation was, sure, we can do that for you, hence the 30 people. Here was the ironic part, though. What was I doing when I was building a team of 30 people? It was a little bit counterintuitive, because guess who was coming to my team? Guess who was applying to be on my team? Some of the best special educators across the state. And so at one point, I felt like, wait, what am I doing? I'm pulling some of the best out of the field, and if I'm continuing at this scale, we're going to have a team of 100 just to support the state of Minnesota. And my vision when I first started this was we need to do better for everyone, and that was not limited to Minnesota. I was thinking about those 49 states. And so during the pandemic, of course, like any other company, we were faced with challenges. Now, the benefit we had is we started piloting virtual services 6 months before the pandemic hit. That was pretty lucky. Right when we got into the pandemic, we said, okay, we can do this. We transitioned everything to be virtual. And instead of saying we're doing this temporarily, we embraced it. And we said, what can we do with this? How many more people can we get to by doing this? And this was really where people came in and started looking at what is it that we're doing to support teachers. It came down to the top 3 reasons that 20 years of research have been telling us. We were helping them feel valued, we were helping them feel like experts, and we were helping them to feel connected. And in every single coaching conversation we had with special educators, we documented how we were doing that. We talked about what was working, what wasn't working, and we talked about why this kind of support differed from the support they were receiving in the buildings. So at the time, I was actually part of the lunar cohort and was really, really blessed to be able to have some amazing conversations with great leaders and was encouraged to think even bigger. I will never forget the day that I stood up on a stage like this and said, we're going to build a platform. Now, I was a teacher. I did not have experience being a CEO. I did not have experience in technology, but I knew that we needed to get to more people. We needed to get beyond the state of Minnesota. I also knew that everything we were doing in person, the coaching we were providing, the services we were providing was working. We saw increased retention rates across the districts because special educators were finally getting the exact support that they've been needing. We were redefining the type of support that those special educators needed. And so we went back to it and said, what needs to scale? We looked at everything that we did along the way, and then we popped up those Post-it notes and said, this can be in technology, this can be in technology, this still needs to be with people, this needs to be in technology. Because as you know, technology won't solve everything for you. And so came the solution of Access 3. Access 3 is designed for special educators. It's an engagement and workflow software that's proven to increase retention, build educator morale, and lessen the workload. Here's the thing, Access 3 can help a special educator to do less of what I call the low-impact activities, the things that don't fill their cups but must be done. Timelines must be met, right? You must know how to plan for a student that is receiving services. You must know how to collect certain kinds of data and information. Those are the low-impact activities that, while we know need to be done, they don't fill up the passion that I had when I entered the field as a special educator. And so we combine that. All of those low-impact activities, we're saving you time there, but we combine it with an entirely human-centered approach. How do we help them to continue to feel connected with other people who have a day that looks like theirs? How do we help them feel connected by getting their questions answered at the time that they have them? And how do we help them do more of the high-impact work and less of the low-impact work? So some people ask, they're like, where did Access 3 come from? 3, value, expertise, connection. You can see it in every single part of the platform. Access is actually part of your cervical spine. It's your C2. Here's why it matters. Without your C2, your brain would not connect to your heart. Teachers need to know that the heart work and the brain work all matter. If administrators are only addressing the brain work, right? So special ed solutions out there right now, a lot of teacher solutions out there right now, they are addressing the brain work. They're trying to get less clicks, or they're trying to make the work more efficient. But they're missing that a huge part of that job is what that teacher feels when that blind student walks through the door for the first time and they have planned for 2 weeks to make sure that their programming was right. So we address the heart work and the brain work. Now, here's how we differ a little bit. The typical EdTech product, and we hear it all the time, the student is the user. Well, what impact does that have on the student? And I know that many people would love to hear me say the direct impact that Access 3 has on the student. And here's what I'll say back to you. The number one factor in student success is the relationship between the teacher and the student. So why haven't we put more time into focusing on the teacher? What if we put more time into thinking about the educator as the user instead of the student as a user? And that's what we've done with Access 3. So as I mentioned before, there's a lot to Access 3. We're combining the heart work, we're combining the brain work, but for those of you that I know care about those technical pieces, here you go. We've got process automation happening. Did you know that special educators have to manage legal deadlines? And they're crazy. 14 school days, 14 calendar days, 10 school days, 90 days. Every single deadline they have is different. And guess what the most used way of counting those deadlines is? And I did this myself. Pull out a calendar on your desk, take out your pen, say we're starting on September 3rd, I need to count 30 academic days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, we're not in school that day. 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh no, I messed up, we're not in school that day, I better start over. That's low impact. But here's the thing, those deadlines matter. So we've solved for that. You are not going to think twice about if you know the date is right or not. Our process automation does that for you. Those first-year teachers, and right now, first-year teachers are not licensed. They're coming in without any credentials. They are a para last week, a paraprofessional who is not licensed, and they're a teacher this week. Those people who are put under that pressure of meeting those legal deadlines need to be told what to work on next, because sometimes you only have 7 minutes in between your classes. Sometimes you only have that hour at the end of the day, and you don't know what to start with. So our process automation does that for you. We have a learning management system. It helps you to feel like an expert. My first year of teaching, I taught 6th and 7th graders how to read. My second year of teaching, I taught 10th and 11th graders how to emotionally regulate. Totally different jobs. That's like asking a pediatrician to become an orthopedic surgeon the next year. I needed to learn skills on the fly. I needed to be able to look up something, take the information in, and apply it to my job. And I also didn't really have time to learn. I needed to be able to do the work while I was learning. Our learning management system allows you to do that. It helps you to feel like an expert. And finally, multi-channel support. We have a messaging system, we have a matching system that pairs you with other users who have a day that looks just like yours. If I am a blind and visually impaired teacher, I know there are 3 other blind and visually impaired teachers out there who have days that look just like mine. We're actually getting asked questions that are so in line with what's happening in our classroom right now, because we've done the research, that you feel like somebody really knows what's going on in my day. That multi-channel support allows people to get the questions answered at the time they have them, because we know they happen at all times of the day. We also know that most special educators can't go to their special ed teacher next door because their days may not look anything alike. We also know they can't go to their principal because their principal may not have all the answers. And how does it feel when you don't have all the answers? If you are the person responsible for ensuring that somebody is filled with joy while doing their passionate job, and you feel like you constantly have to say, let me find out, or I'll get back to you on that, or wow, I'm really not sure, that doesn't feel great for anyone. So that multi-channel support really makes sure that they have the support they need when they need it. And sometimes that looks like somebody on our team, a special education expert who really knows everything that they are able to learn and are able to provide that information to that teacher at the time that they need it. So 2022 came around, here we are, and this is what we're doing. We are getting it in every special educator's hands. Now, something that hasn't left me that I mentioned earlier is this feeling in my body. I still get it in September. The school year starts and I'm like, whew, school year's starting. And mind you, I haven't been in the classroom for like almost a decade, right? But it doesn't leave me. And what else doesn't leave me is me staying up at 10:30 a couple Tuesday nights ago, Facebook chatting with a special educator in Wyoming who just needs some help. I can't stop myself. The special educator in me just wants to help. I know this needs to be in more people's hands because it's everything that I wish I would have had. It's everything that my team wishes they would have had. And so our goal this year is to get it as far as we possibly can. So right now, the dark blue states, that's where we currently have Access 3 users, and by the end of this quarter, we'll be in each of those states. Through districts, through individual memberships, we are getting to as many special educators as possible. We currently have about 1,000 people on the platform. From an engagement standpoint, we have reached out to every single state across the United States, and we have engagement from every single state. This problem is not going away. Here's my team, and this is my final note for the day. Now, you heard me say earlier that within just a couple of years, I built the team from being me, myself, and I to 30. You'll notice that my team is not 30 people anymore. This was an incredibly hard decision to make as we were growing. Something that has never changed is my vision of supporting all special educators. When I first started the company, I didn't exactly know what that was going to look like, and I think that's kind of just the deal with startups, right? You have a big vision, you're not exactly sure how you're gonna get there, but as the founder and a CEO, your commitment never dies. The team that I have right now, you may have noticed there were little pictures along the way. Those were all different points in time that I met those people. So one I get to call out today, Shannon Haiti is right here. Shannon Haiti was my paraprofessional when I was a special education teacher in 2011. When I was a coordinator, she was a teacher. When I was a special education director, she was a coordinator. She's now at Creatively Focused. She and those that were on the previous slides, as well as those that are on the team now, this was the key thing that I realized about them. They didn't just believe when they came to our team in what we were doing. They believed in what we would do in the future. They believed in what would happen 5 years from now or 10 years from now. And so my message for you as you're building and you're reconsidering kind of how your thing is going to do the thing is to look at the people you have around you. Because some of those first people that come in at different points in time will be so incredibly critical as you start to grow. And something that we're really hitting now is being able to say we're ready. We're ready for this next level of growth. We are ready to be those that say to teachers, do less. Teachers hear repeatedly, You should do more with less. Well, what if we start to say to teachers, do less? So thank you all very much for your time today. We're extremely excited about the journey Creatively Focused is taking and redefining how we support teachers. Be sure to help those around you know how they are valued, that they are experts, and that they're connected. And please, if you know any educators, specifically special educators or school administrators or districts within Minnesota or other states, we would always welcome the introduction. We can't wait to get this into everyone's hands. Thank you for your time today.